This week on Motor Week, Richard Hammond is in the south of France to test Honda's long-awaited Roadster, the S2000. Ian Royle gets to grips with a huge Nissan Patrol, and Ginny Buckley puts two families to the test with two completely different four-wheel drive cars.
Try, if you will, to categorise Honda as a car manufacturer. What do they specialise in making? Look around and you might think it's small and rather faceless family hatchbacks. But then again, they do make the Integra and now the Accord Type R, both full-on nutter machines. But there is a common factor here. Honda cars are discreet. It's not until you drive the Integra Type R do you realise what it's all about. Look at it and it's just an ordinary hatch with a spoiler stuck on the back. And then there's the NSX, a car that takes being understated to the point of being, well, not very funny at all, really. Who wants to have a supercar that can outgun a Ferrari but looks like a Honda? And now it looks as though Honda's new baby is about to do to the two-seater Roadster market what the NSX did to the supercar market. Nothing. The Honda S2000 isn't about to set anyone's knees a-trembling on looks alone. An MX-5 is cuter, a Porsche Boxster more beautiful, and a BMW Z3 more sort of snarly. But it does have something. The metal looks like fabric stretched tautly over shapes, defined by this big boxy grille at the front, these slanty headlights and these big bulgy wheel arches. It's distinctive, but understated. Honda, it seems, have taken the concept of the small two-seater Roadster and they've got all sensible about it. They've tried to make it work as a car. They wanted to keep to a 2-litre 4-cylinder engine because it's light and compact, and thanks to the VTEC system, very high revving. Also, being so compact, that means Honda could mount it a long way back under that long bonnet at the front, and that gives it the 50-50 weight distribution that fans of mid-engine supercars will tell you is what driving pleasure is all about. So we have here a rear-wheel driven 2-seater open-top Roadster with a 50-50 weight distribution and an engine that will happily rev to 9,000. Well, you just know it's got to be fun. And then they get really clever. By a combination of technical virtuosity and, I suspect, voodoo, Honda have managed to squeeze an incredible 240 brake horsepower out of that 2-litre 4-cylinder engine. Come on, chaps. That really isn't playing the game. I mean, a chap could hurt himself. Isn't that rather missing the point, though? We should know we're British and we've been blatting around in little two-seaters for decades. And we know that they should be cramped, unreliable and outpaced by large family cars, but always beautiful and dashing. So what's all this talk of reliability, performance, handling? Come on, chaps, play the game. Mazda may have made their MX-5 indestructible, but it's certainly not overpowerful. And the Z3 in anything other than M-Tech form is just pure pose value. Honda then have decided to make their baby two-seater work in all departments. And then there's the price. Well, like anything else, the two-seater Roadster has gone up in price over the years. From being just a thing for a young gadabout to be seen spinning around town, it's become a plaything for the fat 50-something corporate gladiators to escape in at the weekend. At a shade under 28 grand, the S2000 is about 6,000 cheaper than your Porsche Boxster, but it outperforms it. People regularly spec up their Z3s until they cost around this, and the only ones cheaper are the Mazda MX-5 and Fiat Barchetta, neither of which are even in the same league when it comes to performance. Perhaps the only disappointment for the S2000 is the interior, which once you get past the racy red leather sports seats and the extra deep transmission tunnel, which does give the car extra stiffness, it's all a bit bland really. Some of the switchgear, though very sturdy, is a little on the flaky side, and I'm still not a big fan of the digital dash. And that exterior, I've come to like it. It's taut, purposeful and stylish, and I'm sorry for saying that it wasn't. It may take a while to realise it, but I think it looks fantastic. But it is very comfortable in here. And like the rest of the car, it feels very substantial and very well put together. But it's not for sitting around and gawping at. The idea is you're supposed to take it out, drive it, enjoy it, drive it quite fast. Now, hold on a minute. I've found a fault. Everything is not rosy after all, and it's this. You've pulled up to some beauty spot with a lady in your life, look out at the view, and the moment arrives and you lean across, darling, I wonder if I might steal a kiss, and is it me or is it raining? Oh! It's the headlamp washer, the buttons, and you... It's not cool. It's not cool at all. Quite embarrassing. There is passion in the S2000, and it starts here with this button. It's big, it's red, and as it says, it starts the engine, and it's absolute proof that Honda are just a little bit proud of what they've done with this car. And justifiably so. They've taken the concept of the small two-seater Roadster by the scruff of the neck and shaken it till its goggles fell off. They've produced a car that is taller, stronger, and faster than anything else in the class, and it does it all for less than anything else in the class. It still may not be a cheap toy, but it's a damn good one.
Very few cars have achieved cult status in their lifetimes. Most of them have been sports cars. But in the 4x4 market, certain vehicles like the Mercedes G-Wagon, the Toyota Land Cruiser, now the Land Cruiser Amazon, and the Nissan Patrol have become firm favourites with their owners, and mainly due to the fact that so little of them sell here in the UK. Now, the old-style Nissan Patrol was, quite frankly, dreadful. It was square, it was boxy, it was uncomfortable, it was just awful. This is the new Nissan Patrol, and it's 100 times better than the old one. It's more rounded, it's more attractive, it's more luxurious. It's a whole lot better. It's the ultimate Tonka toy. At the front you get an aggressive grille. Just imagine seeing one of these in your rear view mirror. At the sides you get flared wheel arches. This thing is positively gargantuan in size. My wife would have kittens trying to park this in the supermarket car park, and I can tell you that. Now, I always thought the Land Cruiser Amazon was just about the biggest 4x4 in the whole wide world, and at first glance this looks smaller, but it's not, in some dimensions anyway. It's 4 inches longer than the Amazon, 4 inches shorter in width than the Amazon. It also has the capacity to seat up to 7 people with 3 rows of seats, but that gives you absolutely no luggage space whatsoever. Now, the interiors of Japanese cars are not particularly well known for their pleasing appeal, and this Patrol kind of hits and misses. The leather's not too bad, the overall quality of the plastics is not too bad either. However, the wood trim around the front dashboard is pretty darn awful, but you do get a lot on this SE equipped model. You get a radio, you get a CD player, climate control, a huge electric sunroof, electric seats, and of course electric windows and 1 or 2 other gadgets and gizmos. And as for the price, well, it's pretty darn astounding. £31,000 will buy you this 5-door SE Patrol, and that compared to the Land Cruiser Amazon, which starts at just over £36,000, is quite amazing. Now, Nissan have been building the Patrol since way back in 1951, but you didn't realise that. They've been producing 4-wheel drive vehicles almost as long as Land Rover. And they're renowned for their reliability and their ruggedness. And this latest Patrol is the most sophisticated, as you'd imagine, of them all. One interesting thing as well is that people say in the likes of Australia buy Nissans and Toyotas over buying Land Rovers purely for their reliability. When you're driving through the outback without anything else around you, no phones, no help whatsoever, one thing you don't want is for your 4-wheel drive to break down. And you can be guaranteed that Nissans and Toyotas won't do that. Now, rather surprisingly, Nissan have offered just one engine choice in this new Patrol range, and it's a 2.8 litre straight-six turbo diesel. It produces a very measly, very meagre 130 brake horsepower. which is really absolutely nothing at all for a car of this size. It whacks out 186 pounds-feet of torque, and it will get you to 60 miles per hour in what seems like an eternity. In fact, it's 19 seconds, thereabouts, with a top speed of 96 miles per hour. So this isn't a hot rod, that's for sure. Now, there's a lot of body roll in this new Patrol, as you would expect with most 4x4 vehicles. Nissan have also decided to put a little switch on the new Patrol, which is a stabiliser on-off switch, which actually switches the anti-roll bars on and off. However, you should only turn them off when you go off-road, which gives even more capability if you want to do some really, really serious off-roading. So, the new Nissan Patrol, what do we think? Well, it's certainly an improvement on the old one, that's for sure. As far as this one goes, well, it's very capable off-road. You're not going to get stuck in many, many situations in this. On the road, it's perhaps less capable due to the fact it's got such a measly engine with hardly any brake horsepower. No automatic transmission option either. So it makes you think when you're spending, what, £31,000 for this SE-equipped model, which has, well, let's be honest, everything on it. You can also have a new Jeep Grand Cherokee for £30,000. You can also have a similarly well-equipped Land Rover Discovery, again for around £31,000. Which would make me think, why on earth would anyone buy one of these Nissan Patrols? Well, I just can't think why.
Coming up after the break, Ginny Buckley puts two families to the test to see which they preferred when given the choice between two 4x4s, the Isuzu Trooper or the Subaru Legacy.
It seems that everywhere you look these days, there are so-called experts telling us all about cars, advising us on what performs well, what looks good, and yes, what suits you, sir. Well, we've decided to get our expert advice from two Northwest families. They're going to be checking out a couple of off-roaders for us, and we've even got the off-road weather to go with it. But before we find out about the cars, let's say hello to the families.
This is the Battle family. Dad Jason is a sales executive based in their hometown of Accrington, along with his wife Maxine, who has a full-time job taking care of the three children, Elliot, Nathan and Naomi. The Battle family are currently driving a Ford Escort. Ideally, they'd like a car that does remain economical and one that's suitable for their growing family. Our second family this week is the Johnston family. Dad Mike is a building inspector. Mike's wife Sarah is a nurse and they live in Swinton in Manchester with their two children, Catherine and Elizabeth. They currently drive a Vauxhall Cavalier and are looking for something as practical for their day-to-day routine. The first car this week is being driven by the Battle family. It's the Isuzu Trooper Citation. It's got a 3.5 litre engine and could well be classed as one of the biggest, baddest off-roaders around. Against it is the Subaru Legacy. It's more of a car that claims complete off-road capability, but still giving you the power and performance from its 2.5 litre engine. Mike is first in the driving seat with his wife Sarah. So what are the best points so far?
It's the driving of it. I'd like to have the car without the family in it. I think when they went to bed, I'd be taking it out afterwards for a little bit more exciting ride. I think it's more of a driver's car than a family car. There's a few gadgets and bits and bobs. It's got all the mod cons. It's got everything, every gadget in it you can imagine. It's got the cruise control, traction control. It's got electric everything.
It's very comfortable, and like I said, when you're going around the corners, you do feel secure. I'm not having to hold on to the door, as if I'm falling over. It's comfortable, yeah.
Meanwhile, in the Trooper, Jason and Maxine seem to be putting this rough, tough 4x4 through its paces, and so far they seem quite happy with it.
The Trooper's sporty, responds well. You're high, so you can see all around you. You can see more things coming ahead. All the controls are close to hand, and it's an all-round good performer.
I really like this one. The only fault I'd give it, that's just because it's a two-door. It's hard work getting in and out for children. If it were a four-door, it'd be great. But I like this. This is my favourite. I want one.
Now, we thought it was important to test out as many different conditions as possible. So we asked our families to put both cars to the test and sent them on a selection of roads and motorway to discover the good and bad points in handling, performance and comfort. Off-roaders like the Trooper can sometimes have a reputation to wobble and wallow on the tarmac and give you a pretty uncomfortable ride, which could prove a nightmare on long journeys. So is there truth in this common statement from the world of the motoring media?
On a long distance drive where you're going a couple of 100 miles, I'd be concerned that is it truly comfortable for a long distance drive. However, for drives under 100 miles, yes, it's practical.
I think it's really comfy. Sorry, Jason. Yeah, I like it.
Back on the road in the Legacy, and Mike contemplates the question, would he actually buy one?
I wouldn't turn my nose up if it was given to me, of course. We've got Vauxhall Cavalier, which is a hatchback, which suits our needs as a family car. It's the family wagon. It's, you know, this could easily take its place. All the bits and bobs are lovely. I would quite happily have one of these, although I think I'd like to shop around a bit more first before I made my mind up.
Well, the weather certainly isn't getting any better, so we thought this was a good time to grab a bite of lunch in a local pub. The families can exchange stories about how the cars have been over the past few days, and more importantly, they can also swap cars. Let's go and do it.
Back on the road after a quick change of keys, and it's time for Jason and Maxine to drive the Legacy and compare the two.
Right, the Subaru is more practical for a family, for the space-wise, and there feels more room inside, where it's a bit tighter in the actual Trooper.
I like the Isuzu more for looks-wise, and it were only a two-door. I think that's better. It's more practical when you've got children, safety-wise.
Maxine seems to like most things better about the Trooper than the Subaru. Mike, however, has his own thoughts.
I found it a pain in the neck being a three-door, but our family is very young and they're not in a position to climb in the car yet and strap themselves in yet.
It's a total different drive than a car. It's a bit like driving a bus, really, but I think it's just the type of vehicle. But soon get used to it.
Our two teams have put these vehicles through the rigours of a day with their families, but there's still one test left to do. Now, most vehicles never see more action than the odd trundle up a country lane or maybe a visit to the supermarket, but these cars are actually capable of going off-road. So we thought the mums, Maxine and Sarah, would like to do just that. Now, before you start to panic, because I know you've not done anything like this before, we've got two wonderful off-road instructors for you, so you're in good hands. Sarah, if you go off with Tim, OK, and you can take the Trooper. Maxine, we've got Selwyn for you, very experienced. He'll look after you. Off you go in the Subaru. OK, best of luck to all of you. Please don't crash, please.
Now, off-roading isn't as easy as you might think, but there are three simple steps to success. A supple suspension, low gearing, and a very understanding bank manager. The first step, though, is to keep heading in the right direction.
Now you're oversteering a little bit to the left, turn to the right. We tend to do that, okay?
Yeah.
If we're a little bit concerned about that, a big drop on that side, so you tend to oversteer to the left.
Right.
It's like in fog when people are driving, they'll steer to the left because you don't want to steer to the right because you're into oncoming traffic or something.
Okay, so it's a similar sort of track at the moment, no problems. It just disappears from sight. Keep your foot well away from that clutch. Now you've got it. You're tending to cover the clutch there. You could feel it now. You can accelerate a little bit if you feel happy enough.
It's very doubtful that you would take either of these cars through such conditions, but if, like Maxine and Sarah, you decided to, how would you go on? Earlier I spoke to professional off-road instructors Selwyn Kendrick and Tim Kirk, who have tried out both cars on the course.
Well, after driving most four-wheel drive vehicles and you come to something like this, it's not tended to be a four-wheel drive vehicle. We tend to see it in forestry experiences, loose and that sort of stuff, and I've been pleasantly surprised. It's a very capable vehicle, although they're normally bought to go around supermarkets and that sort of thing, but yes, it's performed exceptionally well off-road.
The Trooper's a type of vehicle that you can sit up and you can look at all the conditions ahead. You're not sat down in the traffic, so you can adjust your driving accordingly. But in an off-road environment, it's a great advantage to be sat high up. You can see the obstacles and you can plan your route ahead.
After some expert advice, the family test is over and it's time to find out how they got on.
Oh. How was it? Wonderful. Come round. Is it all right, Maxine? Brilliant. Good. Loved it. How did the girls do?
Absolutely brilliant.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Well, there's one here who's glad to see you back in one piece. There he is. Oh, there's your mummy. You've had a really good time to spend time with these cars. You've had a great look at them both. So which one do you want to take home at the end of the day?
Oh, the Trooper, definitely.
Really? Even though it's only got 3 doors and you've got both 2 young children?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah? Are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, we would like the Trooper. It'd have to be the 5-door for me. Yeah, we've just had to struggle getting this one out now.
What about you two? Are you in agreement there?
For practicality and performance, the Legacy.
Oh, just to be different.
Yes.
Right, let's say the last word to you. Nathan, which one would you like to take home?
The Legacy.
The Legacy? Why?
Because it's got Legacy, it's got lots of good gadgets and it's automatic.
I think you're going to have a job that pays you lots of money when you grow up. That's what you want to do. Well, no matter what Nathan says, I think the overall opinion is just in favour of the Trooper. Yeah. Thanks all of you, it's been great.
Next week on Motor Week, Ginny, Buckley and Richard Hammond compare 3 small cars, the 306, Ford Focus and the Astra Sport, to see how they shape up when tested head-to-head. Richard Hammond tries out Vauxhall's V6 Frontiera next week on Motor Week.